Welcome to MetalVide in 666. I'm your host, Brian, joined with other host,
Karen.
And Karen, what is this 666 all about?
Randy's book tour. Randy Blythe's book tour.
Yeah, so we just did a episode of our normal podcast for our first book club episode. We've been talking about doing that forever, where we talked about Randy Blythe's first book, Dark Days,
Yes.
about his time in prison and the trial and everything that went around that whole ordeal, that whole sort of experience. And he's come out with a second book,
Yes.
Just Beyond the Light. For this, he went out and did a book tour, traveling around the U.S. and doing little chats and whatnot. And so that's what this is all about, like you said, just sort of going through our experience. Because we went to one of these, and
Yes.
it was actually last night.
Yeah.
We're recording this
Yeah.
on Sunday. We went on Saturday for it at the Forge here in Joliet.
Yeah, not here in Joliet.
Here
it's
in
a long ways
Illinois.
away from where we live. Sorry, I have animosity about driving there.
You hate
I hate
Joliet for
going there.
some reason.
I don't know. I think it was because the first time I went there, I had a panic attack, and now it's like that's all I can think about.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Any case, tickets for this were $55 with $9.75 in fees.
Oh, that's cheaper. I thought it was like $90.
Oh, no, 55 with
Oh.
like $10 in fees.
Okay. Wow. All night I thought that it was $90 for some reason.
No, I remember it being $55. And I remember when we bought that, I was like, that's really not that bad of a
No.
price. Because for each ticket you bought, you did get a book. So
Yeah.
we each got a book of the new book. We don't need 2 copies of it, but whatever. We ended up getting 2 copies. And then you had this sort of the spoken word thing that went along with it. And then you got to get your book signed afterwards. So we'll throw some photos up there, but we got our books signed by Randy. He also gave you a pic.
Yeah.
We'll throw a photo
Yeah.
of that up. And we thought it was a bookmark. It's actually a business card.
Oh,
Really
is
cool.
it? Oh, I thought it was a bookmark.
Really cool art with Randy
let me look at
on it as well.
Oh, that's a cool idea for a book or a business card.
Yeah, it's
I
really
that.
cool.
Yeah. Oh, and he has his country of Randonesia on there. That's awesome.
But yeah, let's just quickly talk about this event. We're not going to go into the book because Randy didn't go into the book. We haven't read it yet. We'll eventually read it and do
A book club episode. Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't say the whole title. It's Just Beyond the Light, Making Peace with the Wars Inside Our Heads is the full title. But even Randy comes out and he's like, I'm not going to read the book because you have the book. I'm not going to talk about the book. I'm just going to come out here and tell you stories.
Yeah.
And he ended up talking for like 2.5 hours or something.
I think so. Yeah. And I thought the whole thing was just an hour and a half. So at least that's what was posted
online.
online.
It said it was going to be an hour and a half. Yeah.
And so when it got to the point, I think it started at 8, and when it got to like 10:20 or something, he's still talking. I mean, I was fine with it, but I'm just like, are you sure we're going to have a signing with this?
Yeah.
Like I was kind of getting nervous.
He even said in this first book, like, I'm long-winded.
Yeah.
And we've heard him chat before, like on the boat and whatnot.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he is long-winded.
Yeah.
He did say this was the longest he's chatted on stage. Normally it's like an hour and a half, sometimes longer. But 2.5 hours this night, he said that was the longest he's done.
So far. He only had like 7 nights so far into it.
Which, when he announced this, there were only like 3 or 4 stops, I think.
Yeah, there was just a handful of stops, and then
He's added a lot
he
more
added
to it.
more, so.
Really cool. We're not going to talk about the stories, but he had some stories already sort of selected to talk about and sort of run through.
Yeah, I think one thing that we could talk on that's not about the stories, but just kind of saying that, this was something new for him to do because he's been performing for 30 years with Lamb of God, and he's used to being on stage and stuff, but for him to come out and do it solo in a talking format and not
Without
singing.
all the accoutrements or like the amps, the fake amps and whatnot that are up there, the stage presence, right?
And your friends.
Yeah, it
to,
was
like,
just
help support.
a seat with a bottle of water and him walking back and forth chatting.
Yeah. It was a really cool setup. I mean, we had chairs and stuff, and that was different. I even heard some people say, like, I've never seen chairs in the Forge.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's true. Like, most venues, like, it would look weird to have chairs sitting down. I mean, you've been to the rave now with chairs on the floor and stuff, but it's just a different atmosphere.
Yeah, it definitely is, especially if you're used to going to a venue for shows and then seeing it changed for something like this.
Yeah.
I think it could have been in a different venue, possibly.
I think so too.
Like a theater type thing, and
Yeah.
it would have been a lot of fun. But I did like this venue. It was really cool to see it built up this way.
Yeah, I think they did an okay job getting it set up for a talking event. And maybe they do other ones out there that I'm just not aware of.
Yeah.
Because, like, I know the Vic and different places do, like, I just know the Vic does, like, stand-up type things just because I wanted to buy tickets to.
Like stand-up comedy.
Yeah. And I wanted to buy tickets, and then I waited way too long for somebody that I follow.
But a really cool night all in all. The stories were fun to hear. They were very enjoyable.
Yeah.
The first story, there was a more cohesive story, I felt like, narrative that went along with it. The second story, to me, felt rambly a little bit. I didn't follow it as well, I guess is what I'm saying, is I'm not getting bored, but I wasn't following the through line of, like, where are we going with the story, what's going on here type thing. It seemed like a bunch of smaller stories put together to come up with, like, one larger.
It was an experience, I think, is what he was talking about. So
but then after that, it's like, oh shit, so I thought this was going to be a Q&A. I walked in primarily thinking it was going to be a Q&A, or even on the boat where it was Randy and one other person sort of like doing a conversation back and forth with scattered in Q&A.
I was going to say not when it started, but maybe 30 minutes in, I was thinking, I was like, I think I had that thought as well. Cause on the boat, like you were saying, it was Randy talking or somebody asking some questions, and like then Randy would go on his conversational parts or whatever. So, and it not necessarily Q&A, like the audience did ask on the boat as well some questions, but it was more like a conversation, like an interview type conversation. And that's what I kind of thought this may have a setup similar to. And about 30 minutes in to that first story, I kind of thought like, maybe having somebody doing something like that would keep him on track more.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like, I was okay with it, but it is that long-winded. And he tells stories like you tell stories, where it's just like
this thing and then this thing.
So many details. And like, I mean, you could picture it for sure in your head. And if you've read Dark Days, he writes like he tells a story. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like
you enjoyed it, but you could see where that could be not necessarily off-putting, but somebody could be like, "Oh, all right, well, let's hone this in a little bit. Let's get back on track."
Like I was fine with it. I was fine with the whole story aspect, but I guess I was kind of again. I thought it was only an hour and a half with the signing, and I'm like, wrap it up.
Yeah, and by the end of it, I was not expecting there to be any Q&A, but there was Q&A.
Yeah.
And also, I think during the end of that like second story he's talking about, we see a bunch of young children start walking into the venue because apparently there's a nightclub upstairs.
A nightclub upstairs of the Forge.
So we're seeing like these young teenage kids walk in, and it's like, we're the old people here, like, what the fuck are you doing out so late? Where are your clothes? It's cold outside. Put the jacket on.
It was 24 degrees with a real feel of 16 degrees when we left. And these kids were coming in with, I said tube tops last night, and you were like, I don't think those were tube tops, but basically a bra and a skirt.
Yep.
And I'm like, I am sitting here in a coat, inside with a coat, a sweater, a t-shirt, and jeans on, and I'm freezing.
Which is funny because at the beginning of the night, Randy's talking about how old he is and how he's starting to get like the old man grumpy sort of get off my lawn bullshit. So I didn't even think about that till just now. Like, oh no, we're definitely in that same boat. We're in
that circle
of like, where the fuck are your clothes? Put a goddamn coat on. It's cold outside. You're gonna get sick. But I thought that was funny. But at the same time, like at the end, I was like, I'm not expecting a Q&A. Clearly, they're trying to wrap this up to get us the fuck out because there's another thing going on I didn't know about.
Yeah. And we did talk to some people in line for the book signing who were sitting upstairs, and they said that the nightclub was kind of distracting because there was a door there that people were using the restroom, or like that's how you get to the restroom or something. And he was like, every time the door opened, it was like boom, 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 and it's like that would be really distracting if you're trying to watch a spoken word presentation.
Yeah.
With that.
And again, I do wish we also showed up along those lines. I do wish we showed up earlier to get a better seat closer, because we were in the back, and the way the Forge is set up, that's like right by the entrance. There was always a little bit of commotion going on out there, so that was a little distracting at times.
Yeah, and also how the Forge is set up. There's like two very large pillars back by the soundstage, and then the middle there's also two pillars. Yeah. So depending on where you were sitting, like your view would be blocked, and also like it's not a complete square just because of that. And we've had that problem there before, like with
one of the shows we went to.
Machine Shed. Machine Head.
Yeah, no, yeah, and those pillars could be in your way for sure. But like, if we could do it again, for sure, definitely get there early and get a better seat. Is how I would change that. But all in all, I thought it was great. I thought it was really fun just to hear stories and hear him chat. We did get our book signed at the end, like we said. That part could have been honed in a little bit because it was just sort of like, everybody stand up, now wait, because Randy's going to go to the bathroom real quick, freshen up, because he's been on stage for an hour and a half, 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Give him a second to like sort of relax for a little bit. Then he's going to go do a signing. But like where the signing was going to be, forming a queue wasn't really that great.
Yeah, you had some people tell you like, oh yeah, just stand here because it's going to be right here. And then another, like we're all standing there and then somebody else comes to us and is like, just so you know, that's the end of the line. You need to turn around. And then next thing we know, we're turning back around because
that's actually the front. Turn around.
We're in the
again.
Front of the line.
So like, that's just one little aspect that like, all right, that could have been improved slightly, but it wasn't like, oh my God, this is bullshit, I'm pissed off type thing.
I did hear one person get pissed off.
Oh,
that was
really?
in that middle, like where, so it was, the floor was split into two sections. So people did kind of make their own line in the middle. And so like one of the security people went over to kind of say like, hey, you need to move. And I did hear one person kind of being like, we are in line. We were told to stand here, you know? So it is, I think everybody around us we were kind of joking about it, but I think we all kind of knew like, this is just a cluster. We're going to get our book signed.
Everybody's getting a book signed. You don't have anything to worry about there. And
I did have a thought though, that I was like, oh my gosh, what if it's like the merch line on the boat where
they cut
he has to be, because he said he had to go to the airport.
Yeah.
So it's like, what if he has to be on a plane at like midnight and they have to cut it off?
See, that's one thought too, and that would be very frustrating if that did happen. I would assume it did not happen. I hope they would have planned a little better. We didn't stick around. Once we got our book signed, we bounced.
Yeah.
To clear it out and whatnot. That would suck if that did happen for somebody. I like to think that it didn't. I haven't heard one way or the other.
Yeah.
But that would be very frustrating for sure.
Yeah.
But all in all, it was a great time. Definitely worth the money.
Yeah. Oh,
$65.
Especially, with a book included.
The books are like $30 each. I think it's on the jacket. Yeah, $31 for the book. Yeah. So another $30 to hear Randy speak for 2.5 hours.
And I think there was a ticket option that if you already purchased the book, you could just do
a really?
ticket. I heard people talking about that. Yeah. So there is an option, like, because we kind of talked about it. We're like, now we have 2 books.
Yeah. We'll give one away at some point in time. How that works, we don't know. We have a bunch of other shit we need to give away as well that we have duplicates of or don't want or don't need, basically.
Yeah, not don't want. I think it's like we're not those type of people who just hoard things. Yeah.
So
maybe you look around us, it's like you guys are hoarders.
One at some point we'll get rid of one. But yeah, really cool, really fun event. I want to see more of these type of events. I have a lot of fun doing them. Yeah. It's music related, but also not music related. Yeah. So it's like they do book signings and book readings all the time, all over the place. But in particular, I want to see like more musicians do stuff like this. I love hearing these stories. I love hearing people talk about. Scott Ian did a whole DVD of him doing a spoken word thing, and I watched that and it was a blast. It's a lot of fun. It's different. You see them outside of their normal light. You get to know them a little better. Right. So I just hope more people do stuff like this. I know Mark Morton came out with his book and did a tour, but he didn't come around us. Yeah. So unfortunately, we didn't get to see that. But yeah, I'm glad Randy came around the Chicagoland area and we got to go check it out.
I'm glad too. Yeah, I like it. Just basically what you just said. I like that more personal aspect because you know them, like Randy, the vocalist of Lamb of God. But it's like you kind of get that more personable feeling towards them as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is, again, why I like the Q&A things on the boat or like the conversation things on the boat. I really wish that they would do some of those with other bands besides just Lamb of God.
Yes.
Yeah. And maybe
for sure.
Maybe we should like comment that in to like Six Men or something. Yeah. Like it would just be fun to kind of like the first year we did like a beer thing and there was it
somebody from Bleed From Within,
Bleed From Within, yeah.
The drummer?
Yep.
Right?
Yep, was with him. So that kind of was fun because then you get to hear a little bit of, his experience and like their experience meeting the first time and like stuff like that. So no,
yeah, I agree. Everything you said as well. Yeah. So hopefully we get to do more of these down the road. We'll eventually read this book and do a book club episode on it. but we've got a bunch of other books we want to read first.
I might read it soonish, though. I'm interested. I really am interested.
It looks a lot shorter than his last
yeah.
book. It's like
300 pages
less
shorter?
than 300 pages,
Yeah.
and that one was like 5 something.
Yeah, so 200 pages shorter.
And that was my only complaint with his last book, is it was very repetitive and long-winded. So I think some of that shit could have been cut out.
And maybe he did with this one. Maybe this one's more
shit
straightforward.
is the wrong word to say.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But it could have been cut down a little bit.
Yeah.
This looks smaller. I'm excited to read this, but yeah, like I said, we have Mark Morton, Corey Taylor's, a bunch of other books. Pink Floyd has a book I want to read. So we'll eventually get to this. We'll eventually do a book club episode on this one too. But this event as a whole was a blast, and I want to do more of these. I want to look for.
I want to find more of these. Yep.
In any case, that was the book tour thing. If you're able to go check it out, highly recommend. It's a lot of fun. If not, the book looks great, or it sounds great anyway. It doesn't look great.
Check your local books.
I don't know what I'm saying.
Check your local bookstore to purchase it.
Go to your local bookstores for sure. There's always a local bookstore somewhere. If there isn't, check the next town over. In any case, go explore music, both listening to music and reading about music and reading about the artists. It's so much fun. So just go explore.
Yep. Bye.
The one thing we forgot to mention that we wanted to bring up, missed a lot of shit, but one thing we definitely wanted to bring up that we forgot was the sort of cause Randy was going after or helping to support, which was bone marrow registration, where people can go in, get their bone marrow tested to figure out if you match with the person to help donate your bone marrow to them while they're going through cancer. I think it's cancer of some sort, and your donation can help save their lives. And their song "The Duke" is, I think it's about a guy who went through this. I've heard the story a few times. I just can't remember the details. But then there's another guy Randy met who was at this particular event, who did do the registry and donated and helped save the guy's life. And Randy ended up meeting that guy down the road later. It was a really cool story. But throughout the event, they had these QR codes up to, register to sign up for it. It says it's painless. I've heard bone marrow, testing and transplants and all that are extremely painful. But I don't know. His QR code and his little talk about it at least got me to think about it. And I'm still going to think about it, and I might register. I don't know yet. But this was just last night, so it's something to think about. Gonna throw the QR code up right here. If you're interested, definitely check it out. It's something I need to think more about, and I don't know. We'll see what happens down the road. But as we said in the episode, a great time all around. So as we said, just go out, explore music, just explore, and yeah, we'll catch you around.